so let's go ahead and go over how to set up a simple Vue.js project using Snowpack. I'm going to go ahead and assume that you at least know what Snowpack is. You're a little bit familiar with it. You've read maybe the first couple of paragraphs here at snowpack.dev. And I'm also going to assume that you know what Vue.js is and a little on how to use it. A couple things to note here before we dive in is that since we're dealing with web modules, IE is kind of out of the support picture. Additionally, if you're looking to just get started with a Bootstrap starter app, they do offer those, and they also have one for Vue. So that is available via npx snowpack init and then your project name, and that will clone down their starter application, install the dependencies, and you'll be ready to go. However, the purpose of this video is going to be how to go over setting the project up yourself. This way you'll know how to do it, and if you ever need to swap an existing project to Snowpack, you'll kind of have a relative idea on how to go about that. So I'll have a starter application up on GitHub that you can pull down and start from, or you could just watch the video and enjoy. So it's pretty basic. We have an index.html here with a couple of headings. We have a blank main.js, and then we have some styles within our site.css. Our components directory is empty. So the next step here is going to be initializing our package.json file. So let me go ahead and cd into my project here called Snowpack Vue. Do npm init y to accept all of the defaults. And then let's go ahead and install Vue. And then optionally, you can go ahead and install something called http-vue-loader. So http-vue-loader is going to be relatively similar to Vue-loader if you're using Webpack. It's going to convert our .vue single file components into normal Vue JavaScript components. However, instead of doing this at bundle time like you would with Webpack, this will do it over the HTTP request. That way we can still use .vue single file components, but we don't need to use the bundle step just to convert those into normal JavaScript. Alrighty, and then we need to install one dev dependency called serve. And this is just a static file server. We'll use this so that we don't get CORS issues whenever we do import our web modules. All right, next up, let's go ahead and set up our scripts. And we can go ahead and get rid of this test script here. Our first one is going to be called prepare. And we'll just run this straight from npm. Whoa, not Snowpack. Snowpack clean include. Okay, so this is going to run Snowpack off of npm, so we don't have to install it locally. It's going to clean out our web modules directory before it installs any new web modules. And then this is going to go ahead and tell Snowpack to include any web modules that we're importing that are JavaScript files within any directory within source. And then lastly, we need a script called start. And this is just going to start our static file server off of our root. Okay, next up, let's go ahead and import our main.js instead of our index.html. So script, the type here is going to be module since we're dealing with web modules. Source is going to be source and then main.js. Give that a save. And then let's go ahead and dive into our main.js, import our dependencies, and get our Vue instance up and running. So let's go ahead and import Vue from web modules. And since we're not dealing with a bundler here, we don't have anything explicitly swapping out URLs for us like Webpack would with node modules. So instead we have to define our relative path to our modules. And since we're inside of source here, we need to go back a directory because our web modules are going to be installed off of the project root. One last thing here is that since we aren't dealing with the bundler, we also need to include a browser safe version of Vue. So a couple of ways that we can get that is we can go dive into the documentation, or we can also dive into the node modules, go down to Vue, dist, and we can see here we have Vue ESM browser.js and Vue ESM browser.min.js. So if we were doing this for production, we could use the minified version. We'll go ahead and just use the non-minified version. So that's Vue, dist, Vue ESM browser.js. And then let's go ahead and import http-vue-loader if you're using that. It's going to be from web modules again. And this one's just going to be right off of the root of web modules. All right, let's go ahead and get out of node modules here. And let's get our Vue instance up and running. So new Vue. Let's attach it to our app. And let's set up a very simple data state just so we can test to make sure things are working. Hello world, hello world. All right, let's jump over into our index.html, swap out that h1 with our variable. So hello world. Next up, we are ready to go ahead and run npm run prepare. And this process is going to take the dependencies that we require out of node modules, convert them into web modules, and stick them inside that web modules directory that we referenced in our main.js. So we can see here, Snowpack installed http-vue-loader and vue-dist-vue-esm browser.js, exactly as we have them here within our main.js. And that automatically detected these imports due to that include parameter that we have within our prepare script. An alternative method that we could use is whitelisting dependencies. So if there's some dependencies that you know you absolutely need, but you might not necessarily be importing them, or if you just feel safer having them explicitly defined somewhere, then whitelisting dependencies might be the right path for you. We are using this automatic installs right here. So this is all defined within the documentation if you should have any questions in the future. Next up, we're ready to go ahead and start our static file server. So let's go ahead and run npm run start. And I'm going to get an error here because it couldn't copy this local path into my clipboard. It's no biggie. I'm going to go ahead and just click on that link right there, and that'll open it up in my browser. You can see here we have hello world. So our application seems to be working. We can dive into the dev tools just to verify that. And no errors. Give it a refresh. No errors. Looking good. So next up, let's go ahead and go over how to extract out a simple Vue component. So we'll take this H3. We'll just take the whole main, I guess, and we'll move that into a component. So let's go components, new file. We'll call this main.vue. Give ourselves a template, plop that in there. Go ahead and give that a save so that it formats. And then let's go ahead and give ourselves a script. Got my plugins messing with each other there. And then again, let's go ahead and give ourselves a simple data state, and we'll just copy and paste this into there. So do content, paste that on up, and then insert it in our H3. Give that a save, go back to our main.js, and let's go ahead and attach our component. So we'll just go ahead and do S for Snowpack, and then main. And then I like to use http-vue-loader as a function. There's a couple different ways that you can use it. That's defined up in their documentation on their GitHub. I'm just going to go ahead and use it as a function here, and then pass it a path from the project root. So source components main.vue, and give ourselves a comma there, save that, and let's insert it into our index.html. So right here, s main, and give that a save. And then since we didn't install any additional dependencies, we don't really have to do anything. We still have our static file server running. We can just pop back into the browser, give it a refresh, and we have an error. Failed to resolve async component function. Yes, so one of the requirements of http-vue-loader is that instead of exporting defaults, we instead module exports. Give that a save and refresh, and there we go, looking dandy. We can go ahead and change this up just so we can test things are working. Testing things are working. Give that a save, jump right back into the browser, give that a refresh, testing things are working. So everything looks to be working pretty well. And then if we look down here, we can actually see the GET request for our main.vue component. And if we look at the response for that, we can see right here, there is our Vue component. And then the http-vue-loader is just going to take the contents of this response and then convert it into a JavaScript Vue component before it finally resolves it into our S main component right here. So there's the basics on how to get it set up with Vue.js and Snowpack.